Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to be looking at Plastic Man number 1 through 4. This was a 4-issue miniseries published by DC Comics in 1988 and 1989. This is based, of course, on the famous Jack Cole character from the Golden Age. Very popular character that mixed humor and superheroics and actually leaned more on humor. And they've tried to revive Plastic Man in various different ways over the years because DC got the rights to Plastic Man in, I think, the 50s. And they never really worked. They didn't capture the manic, crazy, over-the-top slapstick humor of the original Jack Cole Plastic Man. Even though this isn't the best comic you've ever read, it does capture the Jack Cole Plastic Man, though. It's really over the top. I mean, it's almost like Kurtzman Mad. How many jokes are packed in here? Some of them are corny, but there's a lot of jokes in there. Some of them are kind of clever. But it's just a really fun comic. And over the years, decades, I guess, because I bought these off the stands, I've often looked at, taking these from the shelf and said, should I keep these in the Academy? Are they worthy? And I got to say, every time I flip through them, I have a good time. So as of now, I'm keeping them. Of course, there's a little special something in these comics that I really want to keep them for that reason, and I'll show you that in 1 second. So let's take a look at these. We'll get to the creative team in a second when we get to the splash page. Here we got Plastic Man number 1. Really nice Hilary Barta cover. Hilary Barta is the penciler of this series, and if you don't know Hilary Barta, he's this amazing cartoonist. He doesn't get much work because nobody wants comedy art in comics. It doesn't sell. Mostly people want superheroes or just very serious stuff, no matter what genre. And it's such a shame because Hilary Barta is working in the, Will Elder, Wally Wood when he was drawing for Mad. He's almost that good. He's he's their heir. Maybe he's not that good, but he's close. He's fucking amazing, this guy. When he inks himself, which he doesn't in this, unfortunately, even though this is perfectly fine art, when he inks himself, man, it's luscious. It's really good stuff. You might know Hilary Barta from, probably from Splash Brannigan, the series that ran in Tomorrow Stories by Alan Moore. And, that's probably the biggest profile thing he ever did. So, just a great cartoony artist. It's just a master of cartoony art. This is just perfect, funny cartooning to me. I do like this pun. You will believe a man can ply. That's pretty clever. Okay, guys, here's what I was talking about, why I could never sell these. Okay, this is not Hilary Barta, as you can see. Fucking Kevin Nowlan. So within every issue, there's 1 or 2 pages. They call it a reality check. And they get Kevin Nowlan to draw them. And, Kevin Nowlan, just that guy. Such a shame he hasn't drawn more comics. He's been around since the early 80s. Probably drawn a couple hundred pages of comics in his whole career. So good. And the colors in this are really spectacular. And just a nice looking page. But man, that Kevin Nowlan art is luscious. So I'll tell you about the reality check business in a second. I don't want to spoil it before we get there. So we see Eel O'Brien, a career criminal, and he's with his gang, or a gang, and they're committing this heist at a chemical factory. And a cop shows up. He shoots Eel, not fatally, and Eel gets this acid spilled on him. It gets into his wound, and he does escape. But the acid in his wound seems to fuck him up. He's the wound stings and he feels all woozy and he passes out. Some time passes and he wakes up. And when he wakes up, everything is all Hilary Barta. It's all cartoony. And Eel O'Brien has turned into this stretchy, monstrous, whatever, nightmare vision. So he's trying to figure out what's going on. And he starts walking down the street and everyone's just screaming like, what the fuck is that? It's a monster. Ah. So basically what this comic does, it explains, like, kind of in continuity, how the Jack Cole Plastic Man could fit into DC continuity. Because those were all, like, funny, slapstick, zany art. Almost like, Basil Wolverton or something. People don't look like that in real life. So how can you say the Plastic Man lives in the DC universe when everyone he hangs out with is just like this totally slapstick, zany comic character? This comic tries to explain it. Apparently, the chemicals not only turned him into Plastic Man, but they also, like, fucked up his brain, just like LSD. So this is how Plastic Man sees the world. Everyone looks like they're from a total zany, like, Basil Wolverton comic, or, an old EC Mad comic. And the reality checks, which we shall see. This is the real world. This is how things really look. But the rest of the comic is Plastic Man's point of view, drawn by Hilary Barta. Very zany. So let's get to the credits here. This series was written by Phil Foglio. He was that 80s cartoonist who did just lots of funny stuff. Myth Adventures, Buck Got It. And he wrote and drew his own stuff. But he just writes this one. Hilary Barta on pencils and John Nyberg on inks. Apparently Phil Foglio, Hilary Barta, and Doug Rice all kind of worked on the plot. Doug Rice has almost just thrown in as some kind of consultant. He just kind of was helping him throw ideas around, I guess. Really nice colors by Rick Taylor. And Willie Schubert on lettering. This is edited by Mike Gold. And this is like the Chicago Mafia. It's like everyone here has a Chicago connection or is from Chicago. Because, Mike Gold used to edit First Comics, longtime Chicagoan. And when he went to DC, he gave a leg up to all of his buddies from Chicago. Hilary Barta would have never drawn a DC comic without Mike Gold, I'm sure. But I'm glad he did. So lots of fun hijinks as Plastic Man is, or Eel O'Brien, I should say. He's not Plastic Man yet. Eel is running around and everyone's freaking out. Look at this great, just zany, beautiful, funny cartooning. We meet Officer McNulty. He's going to be kind of like the heavy in this comic. He's a really incompetent, shitty cop, basically. I don't know if there's a little homage to Will Eisner here. It looks like Commissioner Dolan. His hair's a little wild, though. But, man, the way he's just... Hilary Barta was born to draw Plastic Man. Just his rubbery, cartoony art. Almost every position Plastic Man is really interesting and fun, Just look at all this craziness. So look at this, though. The shading here. This is what I'm talking about. Like, Hilary Barta really is, like, more than Will Elder. He's the heir to, like, Wally Wood's mad art. That, even though it was, like, very cartoony and daffy, it was also beautifully rendered. Beautiful shading and, like, really just good art. Even though all the characters look all silly, like cartoon characters. So McNulty's chasing Plastic Man. He's a bumbling oaf, though, so he can't capture him. Eel O'Brien goes back to his hideout to see the guys. I like this when he shoves his face against the skylight window. That's a great panel. Almost abstract art. Look how well drawn these thugs are. These criminals. Just totally, this is like beautiful Wallywood. Mad zaniness. Right there, that panel. Gorgeous stuff. When he comes down, they're basically like trying to kill him. They're like, Eel's a monster. They're not giving him any love. So they just hightail it out of there. Look at that. The way they're jumping out the window, that is so Harvey Kurtzman. And the way they're running. The National Guard shows up. Oh, man. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I know I just started, but God, his cartooning is so fun. Hilary Barta. I'm a huge fan of that guy. You might also know him. He did a Image parody for Image called Stupid. It's almost like Not Brandek for Image. And that's got some beautiful stuff in it because he inks himself. I think this art is terrific. But man, this is nothing compared to when Hilary Barta inks himself. It's a whole other level of like Wally-Wood lusciousness. He goes to a bar to get drunk. Look at all these great freaks in the background. He does all these, just fills every panel with little sight gags and chicken fat stuff. I love this. Black man's drunk and he's just oozing onto the bar. Almost every panel in this is like, it's got a joke or a pun. Like I said, of course, some of them are like old-timey, corny jokes, but, you know, you throw enough jokes on the wall, some of them are going to stick. I like this. He's kind of giving up hope. He's just flattened out. And this woman walks over him with a skirt, and he looks up, and he does the total Tex Avery, wooga thing. He's like, hallelujah, I'm born again. He totally hits on her. But then she realizes what a freak he is and runs screaming. So he's going to end his life. He goes to this bridge and he sees this like weird looking fat guy here. And he's fishing. And he finds out that Woozy kind of sees the world like Plastic Man does, like E.L. O'Brien does. Even though he's never been dipped in acid. He's just crazy. I mean, we find out that he was in Arkham Asylum, actually. But then Reaganomics came, and they booted him out. He was pretty happy being in the padded room with his straitjacket on. But they kicked him out. So E.L. O'Brien jumps off the bridge, and Woozy saves his life. He says, you can't do that. Don't be silly. So they started experimenting with his powers. Woozy's like, let's see what you can do. And he can do a lot. His powers are pretty weird and amazing. They're just walking around, all these great sight gags. Plastic Man turns into a street sign, and Woozy has to kick this dog away so he doesn't pee on him. So Plastic Man gets a costume, E.L. O'Brien, I should say, and becomes Plastic Man. Here we go, the classic Plastic Man. So they flip a coin, basically. They were like thinking about, well, you know, I got these powers now. Woozy's thinking more like this. He's like, you can make a lot of money returning to crime with these powers. And then Plastic Man's like, or maybe I could be a good guy for once. And maybe I'll make money from like getting rewards from catching criminals. And they flip a coin over it. And I guess it comes up that Plastic Man is going to do good. So he goes to the bank where he knows his cohorts were planning a heist. And he foils their robbery. That's a great panel with the guys falling out of the panel here. And the shading on Plastic Man. Trying to look all horrific so he can scare him. They shoot Plastic Man. And Plastic Man doesn't really know the extent of his powers yet. And so he falls over. And the other guys are just laughing. And look at Woozy here. He gets all feral on him. I like seeing a savage Woozy. I forgot to tell you, yeah, his name's Woozy Winks. Sorry, guys. Woozy Winks, of course, in Plastic Man history is his longtime sidekick. So this is like a retelling of the origin story. It's different than the original. This is post-crisis, remember, so they could reboot the characters a little. So Plastic Man was just knocked out. He's not dead, and he takes care of the criminals and apprehends them. Gives them to the cops. They don't get any money because they're too small time. There's no reward for them. So even though they flipped the coin and decided to do good, Woozy still has some reprobate ways and is like, let's just take a little money from the vault. Nobody's looking. The Plastic Man is kind of like, come on, Woozy. We promise to be good. It's nice on this editorial page. There's a nice biography of Jack Cole. Jack Cole's a very tragic figure. I mean, such a genius. But he always longed for respectability, like to have a national comics, syndicated comic strip, you know, like his heroes. And after like, I don't know, 15, 20 years of working in the lowly comic industry, he finally got it. In the 50s, he got a contract for a nationally syndicated strip. And then he went home one day and shot himself in the head. Nobody knows why to this day. He didn't leave a note. It's just very weird. Plastic Man number 2, we got another Barta cover. Oh, and we get another beautiful Kevin Nowlan page. So now we're seeing what reality looks like. That's, I think one of these guys is McNulty. Yeah, so even though McNulty looks so zany, but this is what he really looks like. If you weren't dipped in acid, this is how you'd see McNulty. McNulty and a cohort, another cop, are clearing out the bums in the park one morning. Well, I forgot about this. We get 2 pages in Nowlan. And they find Woozy and Plastic Man. They wake him up and say, move it. I love this, seeing Kevin Nowlan draw Woozy. Or even though he's a kind of zany-looking character in real life, kind of a funny-looking dude, he looks real, you know? You could know that guy. And then when Plastic Man wakes up, he totally freaks him out. God, these Kevin Nowlan pages. Oh, so beautiful. So the cops run off. They're all scared. Plastic Man and Woozy decide to try to get jobs as security guards at this bank. There's an ad in the paper. The guy at the bank's all like, I'm not going to hire you freaks. Get the fuck out of here. He won't hear of it. But then right then, the bank is being robbed. So Plastic Man runs out. He's like, I'll show you guys. You know, I can do a good job. And the guys robbing the bank are these guys, the Ooze brothers. This is 2 of them. The third one's in the getaway car. Meet him shortly. And look at their powers. They're almost like slime. Or like the Blob. They just can like break up. Look at him here. This guy splits in 2. His top half conks Plastic Man in the head. His bottom half kicks him in the face. This guy throws his hand at Plastic Man. So I guess they could just disassemble and then, you know, reassemble. The ooze will flow back to them and they can become whole again. So it's pretty hard to catch them, as you can imagine. But this is, once again, just fun cartooning. This is just great stuff. So here we meet the youngest, or at least the smallest Ooze brother. And they always pick on him. The 2 other brothers, they're pretty shitty to him. So Plastic Man and Woozy try to catch him. But they escape. So they go to the cop station to get some papers. And this page is weird. I don't know. With all these little panels of this desk sergeant, this totally looks like Phil Foglio cartooning. In fact, this looks like Buck Goddard, his funny space character, science fiction character. I don't know if Phil Foglio decided to pencil these panels or if Hilary Barta is doing an homage, a shout out to Phil Foglio. But definitely looks different than the rest of the comic. That's why I don't think it's Hilary Barta. So we see the Ooze brothers in their little hideout. And they're like their own worst enemy. They always like beating each other up and trying to hurt each other. The Ooze Brothers seem like a amazing, like, I would love to see them fight Powerhouse Pepper. They seem like they were designed by Wolverton. Because they're kind of gross. They're really gross. Look at that great Plastic Man shows up. Tries to scare him. That's a really cool looking image. Look at this right here. How Kurtzman is this panel? That's total Kurtzman. And so Plastic Man tricks him into getting into this barrel. And he closes the lid. So job well done. But then McNulty shows up. Fucking moron. And he opens the lid. Releases them again. I love these 3 panels here. I guess they all mushed together because they were stuck in the barrel. And they're like, oh my God, we can explode. We've never been mixed up before. We're going to explode. And they're so afraid of exploding. They do. And Plastic Man and Woozy, they got paper towels. They soak them all up before they can reassemble and get them to jail. They apprehend them. So a few weeks later, the Ooze Brothers get released on a work release program. And Plastic Man goes to visit them at the circus. They have a job as in the freak show, the Geek Trio. And they're a very popular act. And I love how the little one says, we get all the chicken sushi we can eat. That's some good stuff. Number 3, Barta cover again. The creative team is the same on every issue, so I don't have to reiterate. I like this one. It starts off with Woozy Winks and his pal Plastic Man. So I'll spoil it for you. Woozy's having a dream where he's the hero and Plastic Man's his little sidekick who needs to be rescued all the time. When he wakes up, he realizes, oh, wait, I'm the sidekick. And Plastic Man is saying all this stuff that kind of rubs it in. Kind of being like, yeah, you're my underling. And he even gets an invitation to this, like, superhero soiree. And it says, no sidekicks allowed. I love this picture of Woozy. He's so dejected, he's actually literally standing in the corner. He's just like, that's okay. You go to the superhero party, I'll be fine. He's obviously not. He's obviously really sad. Look at him here. Little sad sack. And Plastic Man's just all like, well, I got a criminal record. You're in charge of our money. You got to deposit this reward money we got for capturing the Ooze Brothers. And Woozy's pretty pissed off and sad. He's just like, oh, man, I'm just chopped liver around here. I'm second fiddle. I'm not appreciated. So as he's walking to the bank, he sees these crazy guys. And they're a cult. And they're basically saying typical cult stuff. Like, we'll accept you and we'll listen to you. And we'll care about you. People in your life, your family and friends don't even listen to you or care. And he's like, yeah, they're right. And he's really convinced when he sees a lot of the cult members are hot ladies. Meanwhile, Plastic Man's wondering what's taking Woozy so long. Nice little homage to Stoned Again by Robert Crumb. And he runs down to the bank to find Woozy. And Woozy's already on the bus, joining the cult. They're heading to California. Plastic Man's just chasing after the bus saying, Woozy, it's a cult, it's a scam, don't fall for it. Look at this great Tex Avery moment here. It's like Plastic Man totally turning into an accordion as he runs into the sign. Oh, we get a nice Kevin Nowlan page again. So we're in California. I guess Plastic Man hitched a ride disguised as a suitcase. Let's just savor this for a second. Oh, man. I do love me some Kevin Nowlan. So, like I was saying earlier, I definitely, No matter how I feel about this comic, it's pretty silly. I mean, I'm never going to sell it because I love the Hilary Barta art. But just getting like 4 or 5 beautiful Kevin Nowlan pages that are probably never going to be reprinted anywhere. I don't know if this is ever going to be reprinted. I kind of doubt it. So Woozy joins the cult and he realizes, it's a cult. It's pretty shitty. Plastic Man tracks him down. There's going to be a thing in the park, Golden Gate Park. I love this haircut Plastic Man has. I don't know why. For some reason, he has this weird haircut to go be incognito. So we meet the cult leader. His name is Ramalama. He's this guy. And his cult is kind of this weird California-centric based cult belief system where he's all like, oh, we're the chosen people in California. We're actually the heirs of Atlantis. All the wisdom and magic of Atlantis. This is our legacy. And then this old weird guy shows up. Great character design on this guy. Just classic, great cartooniness. And he says, I am a wizard from Atlantis. You're full of shit. And this Ramalama tells the crowd to basically kick his ass. He's like, it's a New Yorker. Because to these people, a New Yorker is like the worst thing you could be. Because they're very California-y. They also find Plastic Man too. And they're like, kill him too. And Woozy is so brainwashed. He's all like, yeah, the master says kill him to death. He's all into it. But then he snaps out of it. He says, what am I saying? So he tries to help Plastic Man. Of course, Ramalama basically says, get lost. You're not a true believer. So they all hightail it out of there, including the Atlantean wizard. So apparently there's this thing called Bands Across America that Ramalama's planning, where all of his believers, I guess there's hundreds of thousands of them, they're like every quarter mile there's going to be a band playing, and then in between, just a strip, a long, I don't know, hundreds of miles long strip of people dancing and enjoying the bands. Woozy thinks it's because he takes life insurance policies out on all of his followers. Like cult leaders will do that. He thinks that he wants them to dance themselves to death, get heart attacks, and then he can collect. But there's actually a more insidious plot, which we'll find out in a second. So they realize they got to get to that Bands Across America. They hitchhike because they don't have a car. I love it. They get to ride with this great little character. I want him to have his own comic, this guy. And they look at a geologic map that he has, and they realize the Bands Across America actually is all along the San Andreas Fault. And they realize that all those people dancing on it is going to cause the big one, the big earthquake. And, it's going to be bad. So they get there. We see all the bands and the people dancing. Plastic Man glides down to Ramalama and he says, you got to stop this. It's going to cause an earthquake. And Ramalama's like, no shit. That's the whole plan. He tells them. It turns out his cult is a scam. Sorry, that's redundant. But it's a different kind of scam than most cults. He's actually a New Yorker who hates California. So he started this whole thing so he could do this. Basically cause the big one so California will sink into the sea. And so it starts. The earthquake. The earth is ripped asunder. And Plastic Man tries to hold it all together. As you can imagine, he's definitely not strong enough. But the Atlantean wizard, he imbues Plastic Man with extra power so he can hold it all together. There was a nerdy little continuity thing I like they threw in here. At the time, DC was publishing this fantasy comic called Orion, Lord of Atlantis, which took place in the days of Atlantis. And he says that his name's Orion the Sixth. The Sixth. So it works. Plastic Man seals the fault. And then he explains to them, the Atlantean wizard explains that Atlantis didn't sink in the sea. It actually, like, kind of shifted over to where California is. California is actually Atlantis. He caused it, though. He was a wizard back then, and he fucked up a spell or something. So now he's in charge of protecting California, i.e. Atlantis, forever. But he doesn't like it. He's still like, I don't want to live here, though. These people are nuts. And so they save the day, but of course, once again, no money for them. They're still penniless. And let's look at the last issue here. Another Hilary Barta cover. Not an Invasion Aftermath extra. It's a very dated joke. So Plastic Man in Bagatelle. So Plastic Man and Woozy are taking a bus back to New York City. For some reason, the whole bus is full of homeless people. Even on the sides of the street, there's all these homeless people heading east towards New York. When they get to New York City, there's way more homeless people on the streets than normal. They're like, what the hell's going on here? They talk to the mayor, and the mayor actually offers them a job. He's like, you guys got to solve this mystery. Why are all these homeless people descending upon New York? We'll pay you $500 a day. Woozy's overjoyed. It's great physical humor here from Woozy. Just like classic animated cartoon stuff. This robot smashes in, though, into the Plastic Man's office, and he kidnaps the mayor. Plastic Man is totally gets his ass kicked. But he follows the robot, and he gets his ass kicked again. I gotta say, this art, it seems like maybe Hilary Barta ran out of time, or the inker. It's not nearly as like shaded and detailed. It's still pretty fun, you know, cartoony art, but not nearly as lush in certain panels. We're not getting that like nice Wallywood sheen as much. So they meet this one, they talk to this one, like a bag man. And I love this, a little homage. That's like, it's a, what is his name? Sidney Gump from the Gumps, that comic strip. He's got a hat on, though, so it kind of hides him, but that's pretty distinctive. Seymour Gump? I can't remember his name. He basically says, I'm getting messages from Zircon from outer space. You know, typical talk from, like, you know, some crazy homeless people might talk about stuff like, oh, I've got tinfoil on my head. There's transmissions from space. All the homeless people in New York, which is almost all the homeless people in the world, they all have this message in their head to go to Central Park. When they get there, the spaceship lands, throws the mayor out. So I guess those robots were owned by the aliens. And then this alien comes out named Zircon. So there really is a Zircon. And his story is that on his planet, he was the head of the welfare department. He did such a good job that everyone was taken care of. They didn't need welfare anymore. So his superiors were like, hey, we're going to close your department. It's unneeded. You did such a good job. No one's needy anymore. So he's coming to Earth to grab all these needy people so he can justify his department, so they won't close it. He's going to transport them all to his planet. And the way he's going to do it, the easiest way for him, he's just going to lift all of Manhattan and just fly it through space. He also admits that, like, with the help from your leaders, the cooperation. So Plastic Man grabs the mayor, and the mayor fesses up. He's like, oh, man, the aliens wanted to help them, and we couldn't, so we were going to let them take all the hobos, you know, all the homeless people. But we didn't know they were going to take Manhattan. So now he's just, like, on Plastic Man's side, and, like, we got to stop him. Plastic Man fights two of these robots now. He's getting pretty thrashed. So they do the anti-gravity ray on Manhattan, and it's flying in the sky. So Woozy has an idea. He tells all the old homeless people that there's shoes in the spacecraft. So they all descend upon it and run inside and start trashing the whole thing. There's a couple of nice panels here. Excuse me. So they destroy the anti-gravity machine. So Manhattan falls back into the, Manhattan Sound? Whatever it's called. Plastic Man defeats the robots. And they save the day. Now, for some reason, Superman shows up. I don't know why. And he says, guys, we got a problem here. I guess Manhattan rotated 180 degrees while it was up in the air. We got to figure out a way to make it right. Maybe we should call the Justice League, the Doom Patrol, the Inferior Five even. They're going to need help. So we get a nice Kevin Nowlan finishing page here. The mayor's in deep shit because of his shenanigans. We see Zircon chasing down all these homeless people like, give me back that, whatever, Wiebelfitzer. I'll trade you some shit for it. I need that to fix my ship. And then we see Plastic Man on TV. He's the big hero. And we see all these people at a bar watching, and I'm pretty sure this is the creative team, because I don't know why they would focus on these random bar patrons. So I think they put themselves in the finale. So there you have it. I did want to mention, too, for, a crappy newsprint comic, late 80s, nice colors by Rick Taylor. I mean, just... the printing, I guess, got a little better from the early 80s. Those flexographic plastic presses. Man, some of those comics from that era, I've sold almost all of them. You can't even read them. The letters are all sometimes illegible. The printing was so bad. So there you have it, guys. Like I said, not the best comic you'll read this year, but they're pretty damn fun. And to me, at least, I'm a huge fan of Hilary Barta. I'll buy pretty much anything he draws. And I'm definitely a fan of Kevin Nowlan too. So even though to a lesser extent, you get some nice Kevin Nowlan pages. So I don't know. I wouldn't pay a lot for these, but luckily I bought them off the newsstands for $1. Or I don't know, for a quarter, maybe a year later. But if you can find them cheap, they're fun. And I don't know. I think they're Academy worthy. But that's just me. So hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.